Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. This week, we are diving deep into all things Tesla, and specifically the week of March 3rd to the 9th, 2025. We're going way beyond just the headlines, with company announcements, industry analyses, little whispers about some future tech, and even some really interesting stories from out in the real world. So by the end of this, you'll have a much better grasp on the challenges and the potential facing Tesla right now.
It's a fascinating time for the company, that's for sure. I think you've really hit the nail on the head here. This isn't just about cars anymore. These sources paint a picture of Tesla as like a cultural symbol.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of cultural symbols, we have to start with these protests. I mean, this isn't just like a small group of people disagreeing. This is some serious pushback, and it's impacting Tesla globally. What do you think about all this?
Well, I think it goes to show that Tesla is no longer just a car company. They've become so closely tied to Elon Musk, their CEO, that every action he takes, whether it's political or, anything else, it reflects back on the company. And that brings a whole new level of scrutiny and, as we can see, very passionate responses.
You're right on the money there. The weekly update actually highlights protests all over the U.S. We're talking Occupy showrooms in Manhattan, vandalism, and even violence in some cities. There are even Tesla owners selling their vehicles in protest.
It's wild how many different motivations are behind these protests. Some people are upset about Musk's politics, others disagree with his actions, and some just seem to have a general disapproval of his personality. Tesla's become this lightning rod for all sorts of societal tensions.
It's gone global, too. The report mentions protests in Portugal because people are concerned about Musk's support for certain political parties. And what's interesting is they're seeing a huge drop in sales, especially in Europe.
Yeah.
Germany, for instance, had a 76% decrease in February alone.
A drop like that has to be concerning. It makes me think of what happened with brands like Nike and the sweatshop scandals. Consumers have power, and when they're unhappy, they vote with their wallets. So Tesla's going to have to find a way to address these concerns head on.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, can a company actually separate its brand from its CEO's personality in this day and age?
Yeah.
Especially with social media amplifying every little thing.
That's a tough question, and I think a lot of companies are struggling with this. What's happening with Tesla is a prime example of how a CEO's actions can have a huge impact, not just on stock prices, but also on how people view the entire brand. It'll be interesting to see how Tesla handles this going forward.
For sure.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears to something a little bit more positive. In the middle of all this controversy, Tesla is still pushing out product updates and new innovations. The updated Model Y is a great example.
Yeah.
And it's not just about a new paint job.
You got that right. The survey note that we have here points out how this redesign borrows from the Cybertruck's design language, which makes sense. They want to create a visual link between the models. And it's not all about looks either. There are some practical improvements like better range.
Yeah, and for anyone listening who really likes to get into the details, that improved range is helping to tackle range anxiety.
Yeah.
Which is still a barrier for some people who are considering electric vehicles.
It's a smart move by Tesla. They're keeping their existing models competitive while also working on super cutting-edge tech like the new Roadster.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of the Roadster, you had that interview with Franz von Holzhausen, Tesla's chief designer in one of these sources. And he called the Roadster a technology showcase and even hinted at some features that could eventually make their way to other models.
Right. And we can't forget that this is the company that put rocket boosters on a car. So when von Holzhausen says technology showcase, I think we all need to pay attention. Could we see something crazy like that on the Cybertruck? It's not outside the realm of possibility.
Well, things are about to get really interesting because Tesla isn't just making cars anymore. They're making some serious moves in AI, sustainable energy, and even robotics. It really makes you wonder, are they spreading themselves too thin, or is this all part of some grand master plan?
I think that Morgan Stanley endorsement from the survey note is really telling. They named Tesla their top U.S. auto pick, but not because of their cars. They're focused on Tesla's potential in AI and robotics.
Which is surprising given the challenges in the electric vehicle market. It seems like investors are starting to view Tesla in a whole new light.
Exactly. They're not just a car manufacturer anymore. They're aiming to be at the forefront of future technologies. Whether they can pull it off remains to be seen.
Let's break down some of these ventures. Megafactory Texas is cranking out mega packs, which are those massive battery systems for energy storage on a utility scale. And then there are the Powerwalls, the smaller battery systems for homes. This shows major growth for Tesla Energy, their sustainable energy arm.
And we can't forget about their collaboration on the Texas power grid. They're partnering with a utility company to create a virtual power plant using energy devices owned by consumers, which could make the grid way more resilient.
And then there's Optimus, the humanoid robot. It's early days, but the fact that Tesla's designers are involved and they're aiming to make it look more human-like, that's really interesting.
It paints a picture of a future where Tesla's AI isn't just driving cars, it's managing power grids and even helping people with everyday tasks. It's an incredibly ambitious vision, but is it actually achievable? That's something we'll need to explore further.
Totally. Now let's get into some of the smaller, more under-the-radar tech advancements that could really change your whole Tesla experience. Stay tuned for that.
Okay, so let's dive into some of those tech advancements that maybe flew under the radar but could actually change what it's like to own a Tesla.
Sounds good to me. What about this regenerative braking thing in the new Model Y? The Source, Tesla's new deceleration option. Makes it sound like it's pretty different.
Yeah, it's not just about capturing energy when you take your foot off the gas. They've redesigned the whole system so that regenerative braking kicks in when you hit the brake pedal too, makes it feel more consistent and predictable for the driver.
That's interesting. They're really refining the driving experience.
Yeah.
Especially for people who are used to traditional gas cars.
Exactly. It's a small change, but it could make a big difference in how people think about electric vehicles. Who knows? Maybe this will become standard on all future Teslas.
Well, this next one's pretty cool. It sounds like Sentry Mode might actually be able to honk at vandals.
You know, it's like a proactive security system. If a vandal knows they'll be caught red-handed and literally called out right away, they might think twice about messing with the car.
It's pretty clever how they're using tech that's already there.
Yeah.
Like the cameras and sensors for autopilot. Just adds another layer of security.
Yeah, it's definitely a move towards a more active and responsive security system. This could be a game changer for Tesla owners, especially in areas where vandalism is a problem.
Speaking of safety, there's that article, Tesla to Expand, talking about adding cabin radar to more models, which could be huge for detecting kids left in cars. It's a terrible thing, but it happens.
This is where technology can really make a difference. Using radar to sense if anyone's in the back seat, Tesla can warn the owner if a child's been left behind and even turn on the climate control to keep them safe.
It's a great example of how technology can be used for good. And if cabin radar becomes standard on all cars, it could save so many lives.
Absolutely. But it also brings up the question of responsibility. You know, with such advanced technology, we need to make sure it's used ethically and that it's actually protecting people.
Okay, so let's talk about full self-driving FSD. The article, How Tesla Uses, says they're using simulated data to train it, which seems pretty unusual.
It's a big part of their strategy. They're building virtual environments and scenarios so they can expose the FSD system to basically every situation imaginable, including those weird edge cases that are really important for safety but hard to test in the real world.
So it's like they're giving the FSD system a crash course in all the crazy things that can happen on the road, but in a safe environment.
Exactly. They can improve FSD much faster without putting anyone in danger. It's like training a pilot in a simulator before they ever fly a real plane.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So not everything is perfect, though. The Tesla's FSD in Europe article talks about some issues they're having rolling out FSD in Europe.
Europe's always been more cautious about autonomous driving regulations compared to other places. Tesla's facing some pushback from countries that want more testing before FSD can be released on a larger scale.
I guess technology moves faster than regulations. Governments are still trying to figure out how to balance innovation with safety concerns, especially when it comes to AI.
It makes you wonder if we need a global standard for autonomous driving regulations. You know, having different rules in different places could slow down progress.
There's also news about Tesla suspending Model S and Model X orders in Japan. That's from the Tesla Suspends source. It's probably because of the refresh coming up, but it could also mean they're having problems with production and the supply chain.
Yeah, the global chip shortage and all the supply chain issues are affecting everyone, even a company like Tesla. So managing production and deliveries worldwide is tough, especially when you're trying to launch new models and new tech.
Okay, let's end this section with something a little lighter. Remember that supercharger station in Massachusetts that burned down?
Oh yeah, what about it?
Well, the source burnt down. It says Tesla got it fixed in less than 48 hours.
That's amazing. Shows how resilient Tesla is and how seriously they take their charging network. On the flip side, it shows that vandalism is a real threat to their infrastructure.
Makes you think about how Tesla can keep innovating while also protecting what they've already built.
It's a challenge for a lot of companies as we move toward a future with more electric vehicles and advanced tech. Making sure that critical infrastructure is safe and resilient is going to be so important.
So after this deep dive into Tesla this week, what are your thoughts? Where do you think they stand? What's coming next? Wow, it's been a wild ride through the world of Tesla. They're walking this crazy tightrope between all the controversy and their huge ambitions. What do you make of it all?
You said it, it's definitely a tightrope walk. Tesla's getting so much heat and pushback while they're pushing the boundaries of tech in so many different industries. The stakes are so high for them right now.
No kidding. Do you think they can handle all of these challenges and actually
Well,
become the leader in electric vehicles and AI and sustainable energy? Or will they just collapse under the weight of their own goals?
That is the question, isn't it? The next few years are going to be crucial. They have to figure out how to deal with the public perception issues, actually deliver on all their tech promises, and prove that they can scale up their operations in a way that's sustainable. It's a lot.
It's a tall order for sure.
Yeah.
But Tesla's never backed down from a challenge. They have always been the bold ones, the
Yeah.
innovators.
True. That's what makes them so interesting to watch. They're always pushing the limits, and it's having a ripple effect on so many industries.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Tesla, I'm curious, what do you think is their biggest opportunity right now? And what's the biggest risk they're facing?
That's a great question, and I think it's a good one for our listeners to think about, too. Maybe Tesla's biggest opportunity is to use all their tech to become the leader in sustainable energy solutions, not just electric cars. If they can figure out how to make clean energy affordable and accessible to everyone, they could really change the world.
I totally agree. What about their biggest risk? I think it's that they might lose touch with the public. They need to find a way to deal with all these controversies and rebuild trust with people who are worried about Elon Musk and where the company's going.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Tesla's success depends on whether they can balance their ambition with a real understanding of what their customers and the public are concerned about and what they value.
We've covered a lot of ground today, and I think you've given our listeners a lot to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.
It was my pleasure.